Welcome to our podcast series, Raising Saints and Forming Scholars, where we delve into your questions about the world of classical education. We were made for truth, beauty, and goodness. Let's talk about it. In this episode, we're going to look at the important topic of friendship. We're going to examine how classical authors from Greece and Rome taught us about the enduring value of friendship and what it means for our schools today. Welcome to our Raising Saints and Forming Scholars podcast. Today we're going to look at the primacy of friendship in the classical school. I'm so excited to talk about this subject because it is really the classical scholars who began our entire civilization on the journey to discovering the importance of friendship. And it's a reminder to us that we're human. And you may think this sounds crazy to say that, but in this digital age, in this age of going to school on Zoom or whatever we're dealing with at the time, it's so wonderful to reassert the importance of teacher, student, human interaction. There's nothing more important, in my opinion, in the battle for education right now. So as Christians, as Catholics, we might say, why are we returning to the pagans on friendship? Well, the reason is that is how the church herself encountered the subject. The early church built her teachings and her foundation on the Greco-Roman thinkers. Just think about, for example, our discussion of who is the Trinity. Oh my goodness. Poor Saint Gregory Nazianzus, they had to rely on the language coming from Greek and Roman scholars to even approach the subject. And it's the same thing with friendship. In fact, the thinkers of Greece and Rome give us our foundation for the essentials of simply being human. And then human flourishing. What does it mean to be a human in the political community? What does it mean to be a human and have relationships? This comes from Greece and Rome. Let me just give you an example we could all easily relate to. Have you ever studied Aquinas' teachings on the beatific vision? As you know, when we, God willing, make it to heaven, it's going to be the beatific vision. He didn't call it the beatific, touching or hearing. He said it's a vision. And when we talk about looking and gazing, we get our foundation from people like Homer, Plato, Socrates, Aristotle. They are the ones who taught humanity what it means to look, to gaze. And then the Christian tradition picks that right up. So the ancients teach us a lot about being human, and they remind us that humans are designed for relationship, and our students are designed for relationships. They are not designed to learn on their own. They are designed to do that in community. And so I like for us to think about something like educational friendship. My students right now, my 7th, 8th graders, we just finished Shakespeare. Before that, we finished Dickens. Before that, we finished a novel by Gertrude von Lefort. So I'm hoping, I know we're united for life. We have this bond for life because we shared something beautiful together. Right now, our 5th, 6th graders here at Holy Child, they're memorizing a big portion of Socrates' Apology, Plato's Apology. This is a bond they will have forever together. That's educational friendship. A good teacher should love his or her student and want what is best for them. In fact, St. Augustine, who wrote several works on teaching, he went so far as to say there is a mutual indwelling of teacher and student such that the teacher begins to live in the student and the student begins to live in the teacher, creating this virtuous cycle in which truth travels round and round from soul to soul, almost erasing the lines between teacher and student. And if you've had a great teacher, that is exactly what happens. I've been blessed with great teachers, and I still look back so fondly on that experience. The classical tradition has regularly noted the way in which friendship is essential to education. You know, Christ said in Luke chapter 6, when a student is fully trained, he will be like his teacher. And in particular, I thought we could kind of look at that idea with a writing from Cicero. Cicero wrote an essay on friendship around 44 BC, and he has some really beautiful ideas about education and friendship and how they work together. There is another scholar that I'm very fond of right now over at Classical Academic Press. I'm sure you know him. His name is Dr. Christopher Perrin, and he's been doing some teachings on friendship as well. And I like what he says. He says in classical schools that are devoted to friendship, students become more meaningful friends to one another, and they begin to teach one another as sparks fly among them, catching flame. And you know, as a teacher, I see this here at our school. We just had a Socratic seminar last week on Macbeth, and I actually did see those flames between the students as they were sharing truths about human nature. He goes on to say, it will be through a growing teacher-student friendship infused with love for the true, the good, and the beautiful, that the curriculum comes alive for the students. That curriculum lives in the teacher, it's born in the students, but you know what happens? I can tell you this as a teacher. Then it's born anew in the teacher, because as a teacher, we know what we love, but when you give it to a student anew, then they give it back to you in a brand new way you never considered. This circle, Dr. Perrin says, is a spiral moving upwards. The curriculum turns out not to be just a mere list of grammar, logic, rhetoric, Latin, mathematics. Now, the curriculum lives in the teachers. And it turns out that the curriculum is a conversation. And that's what we're designed for as human beings. We're not designed to sit and click in front of a computer all day. We're designed to have a conversation, a fellowship. Dr. Perrin calls it a dance, a never-ending friendship with kindred spirits. And I do believe it's never-ending. I do believe when we study a beautiful text together, it lives on in the student and the teacher long after the student leaves the walls of the school. Now let's go back to our friend Cicero. Again, he has this essay on friendship. I'm actually reading it with my 7th, 8th graders right now. And he reminds us that real friendship is not transactional. What more important lesson could we teach our students right now? We're living in an age where it's very difficult for young people to find a spouse, to be committed to a job, but all of that begins if you learn how to be committed to a friend. If you think about it, friendship is the foundation of everything. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we could teach them at a very young age that real friendship is not transactional? We know that goes all the way back to Aristotle, who talked about the different types of friendship, and he reminded us, if you're just friends with someone for utilitarian means or just for pleasure, that's not a real long-lasting friendship. And Cicero builds on this. Cicero, in his dialogue, and I think it's interesting, I remind my students, Cicero writes in a fictional dialogue because that was what the Greeks and the Romans did. They used a dialogue literary form because they were convinced that to find the truth, you have to wrestle for it, and it is part of our human nature to have to do that with another person. We can't do it alone. And we'll see St. Augustine doing this as well. He'll continue the Platonic dialogue tradition. So we're very much designed for dialogue, for conversation, and that's why Cicero places this discussion about friendship within the literary form of the dialogue. It's a relaxed conversation. And really, it is the narrator's memory of something he learned before. And I love how he does that, because as humans, we remember, again, we're not a computer. We have a memory, and it doesn't work the way a computer's memory does. This is a beautiful thing to bring to the attention of our students. We are composed in our souls of memory, intellect, and will. And reading a dialogue like this places us into that very concrete situation. Cicero utilizes this dialogue form to convey the fact that the Romans considered friendship as a treasure that should be cherished. Of course, we owe the bedrock of our political system here in America to the Roman political system, who, of course, had their view of the human person from ancient Greece. And they did not believe you could have a functioning political society without friendship. So how important that is for our times today. You cannot depend on someone, according to Cicero, who isn't listening to the voice of the good. And he very much places the situation of friends as one between two people who are devoted to the good. If the two people are not devoted to the good, in Cicero's mind, you cannot be friends. So I repeat that. If two people are not devoted to the good, they cannot be friends. And this would be a wonderful lesson to teach our students. Now, Cicero's essay, it's quite long. What I've done is compiled what I call 10 terrific truths that I've shared with my school community about friendship. And I think one of these is going to speak to your heart as it does to mine, remind us about our own friends, and remind us how we want to encourage the young people at our school. So here we go. Number 1, there are different kinds of friendships. Don't you think this is something wonderful to remember? Sometimes we notice we might have relationships that are so different from each other, but sometimes it's helpful to just recognize there are different kinds of friendships. Number 2, only good people can be true friends. Number 3, we should choose our friends with care. Number 4, friends make you a better person. Number 5, make new friends, but keep the old. Number 6, friends are honest with each other. Number 7, the reward of friendship is friendship. You know, I remember speaking to a friend a couple of years ago who has money, and I remember he told me money cannot buy the best things in the world, because what matters are friends, and money cannot buy real friends. And I thought to myself, isn't that the truth? Like, the reward of friendship is simply friendship. And there's few things in life like that. Number 8, a friend never asks another friend to do something wrong. Number 9, friendships can change over time. I think this is a good one to consider as well. And finally, number 10, without friends, life loses much of its meaning. Cicero writes quite a bit about how, for him, the most important thing in life is a good friend. And so I hope here with this podcast and with our renewed efforts at returning to the ancients, we can all find gratitude and new ways to maintain our current friendships and to find new friendships, and that we would be united in love of the true, the good, and the beautiful. Thank you for listening. We like to highlight our very own students here at Holy Child Catholic School. At Holy Child, we strive to build our friendships around the true, the good, and the beautiful.
What are you doing? We're building a Roman city. Yeah. Roman city has a Colosseum and a bath pool. What do they do in the Colosseum? Gladiators fight for people's entertainment. Yeah.